Discover the incredible truth. My family exposed their hidden intentions after 10 heartwarming years. The evening sun dipped low in the sky, casting golden hues over the small Midwestern town. As the clock ticked towards 6, the familiar sounds of Silver Spoon Diner filled the air. Clattering dishes, sizzling bacon, and laughter from regulars who filled the booths like family. In the midst of it all was Sarah, a determined single mother, expertly weaving through orders while keeping an eye on her bright-eyed daughter, Emily, at the corner table. The aroma of coffee and home-cooked meals wrapped around her, a comforting cocoon amidst the chaos. Emily giggled, a melody of innocence that brought a smile to Sarah's tired face. She was everything to Sarah. Every shift at the diner, every late-night waitressing across town, was for her daughter's future. Sarah dreamed of breaking free from the cycle of struggle, of making a life that sparkled beyond the greasy countertops. She had applied to community college, a step toward a future she could only hope for. But as the weight of her ambitions hung heavily in the air, shadows lurked at home, specifically in the form of her estranged father. A once decorated Vietnam veteran, he bore invisible scars, and while Sarah admired his resilience, each conversation felt like stepping on eggshells. "You're trying too hard," he would say, voice cold as winter's chill, igniting the flicker of doubt she had fought so hard to extinguish. Tonight was the annual community gala, buzzing with excitement and memories, held just outside the diner, where families shared laughter and stories over hearty meals. Sarah walked across the room, but the joyous clinking of forks only deepened the aching silence with her father. Her heart raced as she scanned the room, but when her eyes fell on him alone, nursing a drink, the fiery mix of anger and longing swirled inside her like a storm. "Dad," she called out, her voice amplified by desperation. "We need to talk." Their words spiraled into an emotional hurricane. Years of unspoken pain erupted, each accusation heavier than the last. The laughter of families faded into a dim backdrop, replaced by the raw embrace of their truths. Sarah felt her heart clench, a tightness in her chest as memories surged forward, the sacrifices of a soldier tangled with the innocence of a daughter yearning for love. Tears mingled with frustration as they battled over dreams, guilt, and the ghosts of their past. "Why won't you support me?" she demanded, her voice trembling, realizing that his silence shielded layers of heartache she never understood. As harsh words flew and the air thickened with emotion, her father's eyes betrayed a truth. He had once abandoned his dreams on foreign soil, a concept foreign to her until that very moment. In his refusal to embrace her own, a history of fragility and struggle felt echoed in her aspirations. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each word pierced Sarah's heart, revealing the juxtaposition of loyalty and ambition that tethered them both. But as they clashed, a quiet understanding began to flicker. The gala roared around them, muffled sounds of joy contrasted with their unraveling bond. In that moment, as their eyes locked, her resolve solidified. Could she bridge the gap that years of silence had created? Or was forgiveness a dream as distant as the goals she held dear? Caught between a past and a future, Sarah wondered if they could rebuild what had crumbled beneath the weight of their secrets. Heart pounding, she stood before her father, desperate for an answer in the chaos that ensued, hoping against hope that the truth would finally set them free. Sarah stood before her father, the noise of the gala fading into a distant murmur as the two faced off, a storm brewing between them. Her heart raced. This was more than a simple family argument. This was the crux of years of resentment and longing. She wanted to break through the walls he had built around himself. "Dad," she whispered, the words barely breaking free from her lips. "I need you to see me. Can't you understand how hard I'm trying?" His gaze dropped to the floor, as if avoiding the weight of her plea. There was a long pause, drawn out by an invisible tension that seemed to stretch time itself. Around them, couples swayed to the music, children spun with joy, but for Sarah and her father, the moment stood still, encased in uncertainty. "I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did," he finally replied, his voice rough like gravel, yet laced with concern. "I don't want to see you fail. I didn't turn out the way I wanted. You don't know what it's like to lose everything." "I'm not you," Sarah shot back, her voice sharp, then faltering as she caught herself. "I'm trying to build something new, something better." The words hung in the air, an offering of understanding. They both shared a silence that spoke volumes, neither ready to give in fully but desperate to connect. In that raw moment, Sarah noticed the tremor in her father's hands. She took a cautious step towards him, the space between them slowly closing. "Please," she urged, her voice softening. "I want to share my dreams with you. I want you to be proud of me, not just for me but for you too." Tears threatened to spill from her father's eyes, and for the first time in years, he looked so vulnerable. His strength had always been a shield, one she found impenetrable. Seeing the cracks in that armor made Sarah's heart swell painfully. "I just wanted you to be safe," he murmured, finally looking at her. "I thought protecting you meant keeping my distance. The war changed me. I didn't know how to be a father anymore." Her heart broke at those words. They fell heavy between them, a reality she hadn't fully grasped before. Her father wasn't just a shadow in her life. He was a man grappling with demons from another time, just like her, longing to do right by his family yet failing to connect. Understanding dawned on Sarah. She took a bold step closer, reaching for his hands. When their fingers interlaced, it felt as though a bridge formed between their hurt and hopes. "Dad, we can be better together. We can learn to trust again." Suddenly, the music shifted, and laughter erupted from a nearby table, breaking the moment. They looked over, startled, and Sarah's heart raced anew. Emily was dancing with her friends, her laughter spilling into the night like sunlight. In that sweet moment, Sarah saw the future. She could still have a father beside her, cheering her on, a daughter growing up knowing love. "But what if we mess it up again?" he asked, a whisper of doubt creeping back into his voice. "Then we'll try again," she said firmly, squeezing his hands. "Just like I'm trying now. We can figure this out." But even as hope filled her chest, anxiety curled in her stomach. Could she really trust him to stand by her? To be that dad she had always wanted? As the night continued, she wondered if this moment was just the beginning of healing, or if the rift was too deep to mend. And just as they stood there, lost in their fragile connection, a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the diner, someone with their own truths that could either help them or throw them right back into turmoil. "Sarah?" the voice called. "I need to talk to you now." Sarah's heart dropped as she turned to face the newcomer. It was Jake, her childhood friend, but the urgency in his voice sent her instincts into overdrive. "Why now? Why here? Is everything okay?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. She could sense her father's tension beside her, his grip tightening around her hand as he shifted slightly, preparing for whatever storm was brewing. Jake's expression was grave. "No, it's not. You need to come with me. It's important. I can't explain here." He darted a glance at her father, then back at Sarah, urgency painted on his face like a canvas of distress. The moment hung heavy. Sarah felt a pulsing in her ears, a rush of confusion crashing over her like a wave. She finally started a real conversation with her dad. And now this? It felt like a door to possibilities was starting to swing wide, only to be slammed shut again. "Sarah," her father started, but his voice faltered. He looked back and forth between the two of them, a protective instinct igniting in his eyes. "Just give me a sec," she said, her heart battling between loyalty to her father and the need to understand what was happening with Jake. "I'll be right back." She stepped away, feeling the grounding presence of her father slip away as she followed Jake to the quieter edge of the diner, away from prying ears. "What's going on?" she asked, desperation creeping into her tone. Jake looked over his shoulder, then dropped his voice. It's about your mom. She's in trouble. I didn't know how to get to you, but I found out something you need to know. Something big. Tension hung in the air between them. Sarah's stomach clenched. Her mother lived miles away, a place Sarah had promised not to revisit. The last few weeks had been a careful balance of healing and confusion about her family's past. What do you mean in trouble? Jake hesitated, glancing back again. It's complicated. But please, I can't say more here. Just trust me and come with me to talk somewhere private. Her mind raced. Her mother had always been a source of conflict for her, a figure shrouded in mystery and hurt. Yet, in a way, a part of her still craved connection, the same desire that scratched at the back of her thoughts whenever she saw her father's eyes soften. She couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation with Jake could unravel something profound. Jake, I can't abandon my dad right now. I finally were trying to really connect, she said, hesitation seeping into her voice. The seriousness in Jake's eyes intensified. This is your mom we're talking about. I know you have a lot going on, but she needs you, Sarah. You might not understand yet, but there are things happening that can't wait. The gravity of his words settled like a stone in her heart. Somewhere in her, an instinct was whispering that ignoring this call would mean losing something or someone important. She took a deep breath, glancing back at her father, who stood alone, a look of concern on his face. Okay, let us go, she finally said with a sudden resolve. Just as she turned away, though, another flash of movement caught her eye. Emily was looking toward them, a questioning look that signaled more trouble. Sarah. Her father's voice rang out, a mixture of alarm and confusion. With anxiety gripping her heart, she followed Jake's lead, stepping into the unknown, unsure if she would ever return to the fragile moment she had with her father. What if this changed everything? What if uncovering the truth would lead to healing, or would it pull her further into chaos? As they slipped into the shadows beyond the diner's bright lights, Sarah wondered about the roads that lay ahead, where they would lead and what secrets they might unearth. Sometimes, facing the past demanded courage she wasn't sure she had. The quiet street outside the diner felt foreign and unsettling. Shadows stretched across the pavement, and the distant hum of cars faded as Jake led the way. Sarah's heart beat louder than ever, each thud reminding her of the weight of their conversation. Where are we going? She finally asked, trying to match his urgency with her own steady resolve. To a place where we can talk without anyone overhearing. It's about your mom, Sarah. Jake's voice held an edge of fear that wrapped around her like a shroud. For the first time, she felt the crushing reality of those words. Just the thought of her mother sparked a flicker of anger mixed with longing. Their last encounter had left her feeling betrayed and wounded. Why now? Why bring this up just when she was building something with her dad? As they walked, Jake stole glances at her, his brow furrowed. I know you don't want to deal with this, but I promise it's important. I wouldn't drag you into this if it wasn't. Just tell me what you know, she urged, frustration welling in her chest. They entered a small park, framed by trees and vacant benches, far enough away from the noise of the diner yet close enough for the reality of their lives to feel dangerously imminent. Jake finally halted beneath a large oak tree, its roots clawing upward like gnarled fingers. Your mom, he started, pausing as if choosing his words carefully. She's involved in something dangerous. I saw something that made me realize she might be in serious trouble. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? What did you see? Jake took a deep breath, as if bracing himself for impact. I was downtown last week and overheard a conversation. Her name came up. People were discussing plans that could put her at risk. I didn't even know she was back in town until I heard them. Each word struck her like a blow. How could her mother be back? And why hadn't she known? The questions raced through her mind, but fear instantly drowned any sense of clarity. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She felt sharp and defensive, her pain mingling with panic. If this is true, I didn't know how to tell you. Jake interrupted, his frustration boiling beneath the surface. I thought I could figure it out before involving you. I thought I was being protective. Fury mixed with despair within her. She didn't want to be protected. She wanted the truth, whatever it was, and she wanted it now. What exactly is going on? Jake leaned closer, lowering his voice. Their SA group. They're targeting people like your mom. I didn't catch all the details, but they were serious about finding her. It was like they had a score to settle. As his words sunk in, a mix of disbelief and dread settled over her. Her mother had been a complicated subject in her life, filled with heartbreak and absences. Yet, the idea that someone out there wanted to harm her was a line Sarah could not cross. What do we do? The question slipped from her lips. Jake looked deep into her eyes, determination flaring within his. We need to find her before it's too late. She might not want to be found, but she is still your mom. You have a right to know what has been happening. A chill ran down her spine. Trusting him meant confronting her past, the very thing she had tried so hard to escape. It meant opening wounds she still could barely see. But the flicker of hope intertwined with fear pushed her forward. Okay, I'll help you, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But we need to be careful. I don't want to put myself in danger. Just as relief washed over Jake's face, a sharp sound broke the uneasy silence, a rustle in the bushes nearby. Both of them froze, eyes darting in search of the source. Did you hear that? Sarah whispered, a new wave of anxiety flooding her body. Stay close, Jake urged, moving cautiously toward the noise, his expression suddenly tense. Instinctively, Sarah followed, heart racing as uncertainty swallowed her whole. Whatever lay ahead loomed like a shadow on the horizon, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something life-changing. The sudden crack of a twig snapped both of them back to the present, and Sarah's stomach twisted into knots. Jake, what if someone is here? What if they're watching us? He nodded, eyes wide and ready. We need to go now. There's no time. As they turned to leave, footsteps echoed from the path just behind them, sending a chill up Sarah's spine. What if we're not alone? She whispered, panic rising within her. The looming uncertainty gnawed at her heart. This journey was only beginning, and she felt like a moth drawn to a flame, unaware of how far the darkness stretched. What lay ahead could unravel everything, but it might also bring the truth she had longed for. Would facing her fears unveil a hidden strength, or would it shatter everything she believed? Jake's eyes darted toward the sound, his muscles tense as if he were ready to spring into action. We can't wait, he said, a determined edge creeping into his voice. They moved slowly, glancing back as they slipped deeper into the shadows of the trees. Sarah's pulse quickened, fear mixing with an adrenaline-fueled sense of purpose. She had spent so long avoiding her past, pretending it didn't linger just beneath the surface, ready to pounce. Now, with every step, she felt it creeping back, an unsettling reminder of everything she had tried to escape. We need to find a safe place to talk, Jake whispered, glancing back. Stay low. She nodded, a silent agreement sealing their momentary pact. But the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. She could feel the darkness wrapping around her like a thick fog, stifling her breath and thoughts. Who was out there? Did someone really want to hurt her mother? There was so much she didn't know, and the anxiety felt like it could explode. Just as they slipped around a bend in the path, Jake halted. Here, he whispered, gesturing toward a small, isolated gazebo. It was a battered structure, covered in vines that clung to the wood, making it easy to go unnoticed. They ducked inside, the world outside momentarily silenced. Okay, he breathed, leaning against the wooden beam as he tried to catch his breath. We need to think. First, I know this is all crazy, but I need you to trust me. Trust you? Sarah's voice sharpened with disbelief. You've been keeping things from me, how can I trust you now? His eyes softened, revealing the worry lurking beneath his bravado. I was afraid of how you'd react. But this is bigger than both of us. Your mom, she might need our help. The familiar sting of her mother's absence twisted in her chest, sharper than any knife. Help? After everything she put me through? Her voice trembled, the internal conflict boiling to the surface. The memories flooded back, she could still see her mother's silhouette fading through the door, promises left unfulfilled. But she might not have had a choice. Jake interjected, his voice resonating with urgency. Whatever she's involved in, it could be life or death. We can't let how we feel about her get in the way. Sarah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. The anger and the hurt tangled within her. Yet beneath it all, she sensed the flicker of something else, an ember of concern that started to burn brighter. So, what do you suggest we do? Just storm in and demand answers? We track her down, find out who these people are, he suggested, his eyes lighting up with determination. If we can find her first, we might be able to protect her. The depths of fear churned within her again, gnawing at her resolve. If they could find her mother, what would that mean for their relationship? Would the truth paint a different picture, or would it merely deepen the wounds? As if on cue, another sound, the unmistakable crunch of leaves, interrupted her swirling thoughts. Sarah's heart jumped into her throat at the realization that they weren't alone. The footsteps were getting closer, and panic flooded her senses. Someone's out there, she whispered, gripping Jake's arm. He nodded gravely, eyes darting toward the shadows beyond the gazebo. We need to leave, now. But as they turned to slip out, two figures emerged from the bushes, their silhouettes blocking the light. Shadows stretched across the path, faces hidden but intentions palpable. Going somewhere? One of them asked, his voice low and menacing. A chill shot through Sarah. The danger was raw and real, like ice slicing through her veins. This was not just about her mother anymore, this was about survival. Jake, she whispered, her breath hitching. What had they stumbled into? Was it already too late? In the fading light, the potential for truth twisted into a complicated web of fear and desperation, leaving Sarah feeling lost. She had wanted clarity, but now, as danger drew near, all she could think about was how far the shadows stretched and what they might consume. Stay behind me, Jake hissed, stepping closer to her as they prepared for the confrontation. Would standing together strengthen them or expose them to greater risks? And in that moment, the weight of decisions loomed heavy. This was only the beginning of an intense and dangerous journey. What lay ahead could transform everything or tear them apart. Smoke curled in the air as Sarah and Jake faced the two looming figures. The tension hung thick like fog, wrapping around them as they tried to decipher their opponent's intentions. Who are you? Jake said, his voice steadying like a rock. Just friends of your mother, the taller figure sneered, a smirk playing at the edges of his mouth. The glint of something metallic caught the fading light, and Sarah's heart raced. Could be a weapon. Let us keep this easy, the second figure added, taking a step forward. We only want to talk. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to run, to pull Jake and escape, but they were cornered. Talk about what? She asked, her voice trembling but defiant. About your mother's choices, the taller man said, his gaze piercing through her. She has gotten herself tangled in a mess, and we're here to clean it up. You two just got in the way. Jake shifted slightly in front of her, blocking her from view. We're not afraid of you. Maybe you should be, the man retorted, stepping even closer. The weight of his words pressed down on Sarah's chest. Was this a threat? Did they truly mean to harm them, or was this another play to manipulate her? Why should we believe anything you say? Sarah cut in, anger bubbling underneath her fear. You're not here to help her, just to scare us. The taller figure stepped back, a glimmer of surprise in his eyes. Smart girl, but trust me, this isn't a game. Sarah locked eyes with Jake, silently pleading him to come up with a plan. But they both knew there was no safe escape. The two men circled them, shadows creeping closer, and Sarah could feel Jake's body tense as he prepared to defend her. Listen, Jake said, raising his hands in a peace gesture. If she's in trouble, then we can help. Just tell us what's going on. Help? The second figure laughed, the sound cold and humorless. You're in way over your heads. She's dealing with things you wouldn't understand. I know just enough, Sarah said, her courage mounting. Whatever it is, I'll face it. Just tell me where she is. The taller man leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You haven't even begun to understand, girl. Your mother made choices that put her life in danger. If you really want to help her, there's only one way. Jake shook his head, instinctively protective. What are you trying to say? A spark of recognition flickered in the man's eyes. Your mother isn't just in danger from the past she left behind. There are people searching for her, and she's entangled with them. If she's still alive, it won't be for long. The world around them began to spin, a mixture of fear and confusion swirling in her chest. Does she even want to understand? But deep down, there was a burning desire to protect her mother, to find the truth. Where is she? Sarah demanded, breathing harder now. We can't let them find her first. The second man chuckled softly. You're braver than I expected. But figuring out the truth may cost you more than you're ready to pay. Jake's grip tightened around Sarah's arm. This is not a threat you want to push further. Don't you see? The taller man replied, his voice gaining a menacing edge. You could save her, but it's going to come with a price. The silence afterward was stark, heavy with the potential for betrayal and revelations. Could she really face whatever darkness lay ahead? If they wanted the truth about her mother, would it deepen the harm or unveil a chance for healing? As fear clawed at her insides, Sarah felt the weight of a choice pressing down on her: dive into the unknown or retreat into the safe shadows of her past. The familiar warmth of home flickered in her mind, an image of a life she thought she wanted. What price? She whispered, her breath trembling between uncertainty and the hope of clarity. And as those words echoed in the dim light, everything shifted, leaving them teetering between the past's haunting grip and a dangerous path leading into the dark unknown. Will Sarah step forward to uncover her mother's truth, or will they fall prey to the shadows lurking around them? The taller man straightened up, as if he were savoring the moment. A price in blood or perhaps allegiance. Your mother made enemies that are more than just abstract threats. They're real, dangerous. Sarah could feel the panic begin to rise inside her. Blood? What did that even mean? She glanced at Jake, who kept a firm grip on her arm, his own features a mask of determination, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. Allegiance? She whispered, feeling a chill run down her spine. To whom? To people who know how to protect her, the taller figure replied, his smile creeping back as he gauged her reaction. Or to those capable of bringing her destruction. Jake stepped forward. You're saying we have to choose sides? That's not how this works. We're family. Family? The second man scoffed. Family is just a label. What are you willing to sacrifice for that label? Heat crept into Sarah's face. Her heart raced. Was he suggesting she betray something for her mother? I don't want any part of your twisted game. Then you risk losing her, the taller man said, his voice suddenly grave. You've got to understand, Sarah. Secrets don't just go away. They either kill or unite depending on how you play your cards. The stark reality hit Sarah like a punch. What could she afford to lose? The picture of her mother smiling, carefree and distant, shattered in her mind. Let us help you, the second figure urged, gesturing dismissively like he could brush away her doubts with the flick of his wrist. You're searching for answers, aren't you? You need to know what has happened. We can provide that, but there will be conditions. Conditions? Jake echoed incredulously. What kind of conditions? You think we just trust you? Trust is earned, the taller man paused, letting the weight of his words settle. You find the answers you want, you save your mother. But believe me, the journey won't be pretty. You'll have to confront people and truths that will shake you, maybe even change you. Sarah felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between the familiar and the unknown. Would she even recognize herself after this? But the thought of her mother left unprotected, possibly hurt, she couldn't bear that. What are we supposed to do? Meet us tomorrow night at the old warehouse by the docks. You will come alone or not at all. Why should we trust you? Jake pressed again. You shouldn't, the second man replied, his smirk fading into something more serious. But you don't have any better options, do you? Sarah's heart raced. The warehouse? Why did it feel like a trap? Yet, in the voice of reason nested a shiver of hope. If this was the way to her mother, could she turn back now? What happens if we choose to come? She asked, forcing strength into her voice. Then we all step into the dark together, the tall man said, leaning closer as he spoke. And let us hope it doesn't swallow you whole. With those ominous words, the two men slowly backed away, their silhouettes bending and stretching in the dim light until they disappeared around a corner, leaving Sarah and Jake standing together, breathing heavily in the aftermath of a storm that had barely begun. What do we do now? Jake finally asked, his eyes still burning with uncertainty. I don't know, Sarah admitted, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. But we have to figure it out, we have to find her. As they turned to leave the alley, another thought gnawed at Sarah. Was the cost of this search something she could ever pay? What lay ahead in the shadows of truth? And as uncertainty wrapped around her, she felt somewhere deep inside that the real battle was just beginning. Would she be ready to face whatever came next? The next day felt heavier than the last. The morning sun hung in the pale blue sky, but Sarah couldn't shake the creeping dread pooling in her stomach. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring blankly at the walls, feeling a bit like a statue carved from anxiety. The tang of uncertainty lingered in the air around her, sticking to her skin as if it were a second layer. Jake had been quiet all morning. They both knew the weight of the decision ahead of them, but neither of them wanted to say it out loud. The words had become too big, too serious. Instead, they exchanged worried glances over breakfast, finding solace in shared silence, the clinking of utensils punctuating their unspoken fears. Are you ready? Jake finally asked, breaking the stillness. Ready? No, she answered, half laughing but instantly choking on the sound. But I don't think I have any choice. They glanced at the clock hanging on the kitchen wall. Time was slipping away, as if it too held its breath in anticipation for the evening confrontation. Sarah could already feel the adrenaline bubbling up inside her. Let us figure out a plan, Jake suggested, some spark of determination igniting in his voice. He was right. They needed to prepare for whatever might happen at the warehouse. Sarah nodded, grateful for his resolve. They huddled together, brainstorming every angle they could think of. If we're gonna go, we need to find out everything we can about those guys, she said, her voice steadier now. Jake pulled out his laptop and began searching for any leads. For hours, they clicked through links, digging deeper into a world cloaked in shadows. As the afternoon wore on, they stumbled on a series of articles, old news clippings detailing mysterious disappearances and dubious business dealings, linked to someone named Daniel Verco. That name echoed ominously in Sarah's mind, just like the taller man's warning. What if it's connected? What if he's one of them? Jake murmured, brow furrowed. Then we have to be even more careful, Sarah replied, her heartbeat sinking with the intensity of their findings. They had to gather their courage instead of dwelling in fear. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Sarah's gut twisted with apprehension. The time was rapidly approaching. They dressed quickly, each pulling on the bravado they could muster. As they stepped out of the front door, the crisp evening air felt electric, as if charged with the unknown. The drive to the docks was filled with a heavy tension that wrapped around them like a shroud. Sarah's fingers drummed rhythmically on her thigh, a nervous heartbeat in the stillness. They parked a few blocks away, a calculated distance, and approached the warehouse on foot. The silhouettes of the looming structures cast long shadows in the dying light, creating an eerie atmosphere. Wait, Jake commanded softly. He halted, stepping behind a trash bin, pulling Sarah along with him. I think I see someone. Intrigued and terrified, Sarah peered down the dimly lit street. A figure stood near the entrance of the warehouse, dark and imposing. It didn't take long for her heart to race and her breath to hitch in her throat. Is that? I can't tell, Jake whispered urgently. The figure shifted and disappeared inside, leaving only the echoed crunch of boots against gravel and an unsettling silence that swallowed their whispered words. We have to go, Sarah whispered back, debating whether to follow or flee. But suddenly, a flurry of movement startled her, the sound of another group advancing toward them. A chill gripped her spine. This was it. Let us go back, Jake urged, backing away. But on the edge of retreat, Sarah felt something pull her forward. No, we'll never find her if we don't take this chance. We have to go in. Caught between fear and the will to save her mother, she moved against her better judgment. Jake hesitated, uncertainty shadowing his face. Are you sure? Absolutely, she stated, her voice firm. This is about family. I won T back down. With cautious breaths, they stepped into the gathering darkness, unsure of what awaited them inside. What secrets would they uncover? Would they find answers or only traps? The tension thickened around them as they crossed the threshold into the unknown. The darkness swallowed them whole as they entered the warehouse, the wooden doors creaking ominously behind them. Dull echoes bounced off the concrete walls, amplifying the feeble sound of their hurried breaths. Sarah felt the knot of fear tighten in her chest, but alongside it, a flicker of determination danced. She had come too far to turn back now. Stay close, Jake murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. His hand brushed against Sarah's, grounding her. They moved cautiously, following the narrow beam of light filtering through the cracks in the walls. With each step forward, a chilling thought crept into Sarah's mind. What if they weren't ready for whatever lay ahead? The adrenaline rush threatened to ebb, replaced instead by dread. But she fought against it. She couldn't allow fear to dictate her actions. Over there, Jake pointed to a doorway at the far end, slightly ajar. Shadows flickered within, and they could hear muffled voices, the haunting melody of uncertainty, wrapped in the baritone of the unexpected. They crept closer, hearts racing. Sarah could feel the pulse in her ears, drowning out everything else as she strained to catch the words. It was hard to make out, but one phrase pierced the thick fog of fear. She knows too much. Who are they talking about? She whispered, her stomach twisting into knots. Jake shrugged, equally perplexed, but his eyes burned with determination. We need to find out, he said, his jaw set. They positioned themselves close to the doorway, careful to avoid stepping on anything that might give them away. Through the gap, they watched as a group of men congregated around a makeshift table stacked with papers, documents, photographs, and something that looked like a blueprint. Daniel, won't be happy if we can't keep this under control. One man growled, running a hand through his hair nervously. Another nodded, his gaze darting toward the door. The mention of Daniel Verco sent another wave of tension crashing over Sarah. She tried to catch a glimpse of their papers, of any hint that might lead her to her mother. But every second felt like a ticking bomb, each word weighing heavy. Then one of the men turned abruptly, his eyes boring through the shadows toward their hiding place. Did you hear that? His voice was low but filled with suspicion. Jake instinctively pulled Sarah further into the darkness, adrenaline coursing through their veins. It all felt surreal, like a scene from a movie. How could they be here, hiding just a breath away from answers and yet so far from safety? Maybe we should just leave, Jake whispered, tugging at her sleeve. No, Sarah breathed, the stubborn defiance bubbling up once more. What if they have her? What if they're planning something? We can't walk away now. She watched the men, her chest tightening with every stolen moment, trying to decipher their plans. She thought about her mother, her laughter, her warmth, the way she knew how to make everything feel safe again. A sudden crash echoed through the warehouse, making all of them jump. It was the sound of a heavy crate falling, and the men turned toward the noise, momentarily breaking their focus. In that instant, Sarah saw her chance. We have to go now, she whispered urgently. But before they could move, the men resumed their hushed conversation, this time more intense, their voices rising in urgency. Too late to back out now, one of them said. She has already been seen. Sarah's heart dropped. They couldn't be talking about her mother. Panic clawed at her chest, but amid the fear, a spark ignited within her. They had to continue, had to confront this head-on. Let us go, she whispered, determination hardening her resolve. As they stepped back from the doorway, Jake's hand tightened around hers. In that moment, they were partners fiercely united against whatever shadows lay ahead. But as they began to move away, the sound of approaching footsteps froze them in place. Would they be discovered? Would they have to face the men after all? Just as they prepared to flee, the warehouse door swung open violently. Behind them, momentarily flooding the space with light and chaos. The men spun around, voices rising in alarm. "What now?" Jake hissed, glancing at Sarah, who felt her heart thunder. "Run!" she shouted, and they dashed toward the darkened perimeter of the warehouse, fear fueling their flight. What lay behind them would soon catch up, but in that fleeting moment of desperation, they were fueled by hope. Yet, with danger lurking close, would they find the answers they sought, or would this lead to their doom? In the chaos of their escape, adrenaline surged through Sarah's veins as she sprinted alongside Jake, the warehouse doors slamming shut behind them. Heart racing, they zigzagged through the shadows, avoiding the pool of light that brimmed from the entrance. "Where do we go?" Jake gasped, glancing over his shoulder. "I don't know," Sarah cried, panic lacing her voice. Her emotions were like a tidal wave, crashing over her with each hurried step. The weight of fear and hope battled within her, each heartbeat a drum signaling the urgency of their plight. Suddenly, a shout rang through the air, echoing off the warehouse walls. "Get them!" "No!" Sarah wheeled around, her instincts screaming for them to flee deeper into the night. They darted into an alleyway, the cool air prickling against her skin as she pushed forward, desperation electrifying her every move. "Think! We need to find a place to hide." Jake's voice quivered with the urgency of the moment. He pulled her into a small alcove behind a stack of crates, panting heavily, their foreheads nearly touching. "What do we do now?" Sarah whispered, breathless. Her heart throbbed not just with fear, but with resolve. She had to figure out how to save her mother and protect what little family she had. "We wait," Jake replied, scanning the alleyway for any sign of movement. For a fleeting moment, silence enveloped them. The surrounding noise faded as the adrenaline dulled their senses. They pressed themselves against the crates, breaths steadying but hearts still racing. "I can't believe this is happening," Sarah breathed, her voice trembling. "Why did it have to come to this?" "Because your mom is mixed up in something dangerous." Jake's eyes softened, his expression sincere. "But we're not done yet. We're going to find her." The weight of his promise settled between them, creating a fragile bond that flickered with hope. Minutes dragged by, heavy with tension. Each shifted sound made Sarah's heart skip. Just when she started to feel the heat of uncertainty melting into resolve, shouts erupted from the distance, a frantic chorus, the sinister echo of men searching for them. "It's time," Jake urged, his voice a calm amid the storm. They had to push through the fear. No more hiding. She would not run from the truth. "They're getting closer," Sarah whispered, every reflex screaming to retreat. Yet, with her mind racing, another thought ignited her spirit. What if confronting her past was the key to her future? "Let us head toward the main road," Jake urged, breaking the silence. "We can find help and regroup." Nodding, they burst from their hiding spot with newfound determination, sprinting toward the street, adrenaline flooding their veins. As they reached the mouth of the alley, Sarah stopped short. In the spotlight of the streetlights stood her father, a protective silhouette, an unexpected beacon of safety amid chaos. The heavy air crackled with emotion. "Dad!" Sarah shouted, relief flooding her heart. She surged forward. "You found me. Are you okay?" he asked, voice steeped in concern as he rushed towards her. "I'm fine, but you need to know." Before she could finish, shouts echoed behind them. "There they are. Get them. Run." Her father bellowed, pulling her and Jake close, instincts sharp and protective. Together they dashed toward safety. "Don't look back. Just keep moving." The trio sprinted down the street, weaving through the glow of streetlights, their hearts pounding in time with each determined step. They dashed to the familiar safety of Silver Spoon Diner, the solace of home flickering bright in the darkness. Bursting through the door, they slid inside. The air smelled like coffee and warmth like family. But this was no ordinary night. "Lock it," her father commanded, securing the door behind them. "Dad, they're looking for Mom," Sarah cried, breathless. "We need to find her." "What do you mean?" He turned, confusion written on his face. They were talking about her. There are people after her, dangerous people. She urged, urgency wrapping around her words like a vice. Jake stepped forward, his face grim. That's why. We're here. We need the truth. Her father's brow furrowed, his gaze darting between Sarah and Jake. What truth? As they shared fragments of information, her father paled, realization dawning on him. She's in real danger. Then his voice trailed off, filled with unspoken regret. Dad, we have a chance to save her. Sarah pressed, all the betrayal and hurt from years of silence now morphing into a fierce drive to embrace her family. We can work together, be a family again. Silence fell heavy, anxiety mixed with hope. And then her father spoke. Together, we'll figure this out. In that moment, the years of separation fell away, and with her father's promise, Sarah felt a warmth blooming inside her chest. This wasn't just about her mother anymore. It was about creating something new, healing old wounds, and stepping into the future as a family. As the three of them strategized, their silhouettes dancing against the diner's warm light, the night stretched ahead of them, a tapestry of unresolved truths, unanswered questions, and a shared resolve to confront the storm together. Yet deep down, Sarah sensed that the shadows of her mother's secrets were not yet done with them. But this time, she would face them not alone, but with family by her side. And in that moment, hope ignited brighter than fear, a promise for what was yet to come. The fearless journey unfolding before them. Fate awaited, and together, they would rise to meet it. This is your chance, friends. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation.